Yeah.
Everybody get lunch?
It's just buffering. I'll let you know when it's done.
Director Nicholson, can you move your camera at all? You're like this tiny little head in this big square.
We're live. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. All right, so I think we have everyone here, and I believe we are streaming, so we will get the meeting underway. Before we call the meeting to order, I just want to make a brief statement. I know our hearts are heavy from coast to coast, and we grieve today and this week with the people of Nova Scotia, and especially with those who have lost a loved one. The senseless act of one person has torn apart the lives of so many. Our hearts go out to the family and friends of all who were lost in this tragic event. Now more than ever, we show our strength as a country, our bond, and our love for each other, for every Canadian. Let us not let these horrible and uncertain times separate us. Let us come together with love to support each other and to heal. And with that, I'd like to just briefly read the names of the victims so that although I will not be speaking the name of the person who did this, I think it's important that we remember those who were lost. As we go forward, more names come forward every day, but as of the lunchtime today, these folks have been identified. John Joseph Zoll, Elizabeth Joanne Thomas, Joy and Peter Bond, Constable Heidi Stevenson, Lisa McCulley, Emily Tuck with her father Aaron Tuck and her mother Jolene Oliver, Heather O'Brien, Kristen Beaton, Gina Goulet, Greg and Jamie Blair, Alana Jenkins and Sean McLeod, Don Madsen and Frank Glenchkin, Lillian Hislop, Corey Ellison, Tom Bagley, and Joey Weber. And I know our sympathies go out across the country to everyone impacted, and especially those in Nova Scotia when we're already dealing with such a difficult time. A tragedy like this on top of it is unspeakable. So with that, I will call the meeting to order. I'd like to recognize that this meeting is taking place on the traditional territories of Coast Salish people in various locations throughout Coast Salish territory, and I know we're all thankful to be here. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item of business is approval of the agenda.
Thank you. If I can have, is there any changes or additions to the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve? Moved by Director Haim, seconded by Director Yanni DiNardo. All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item M1 is the adoption of the regular board meeting minutes of April 8th, 2020.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Director Wilson, seconded by Director Morrison. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Opposed? None opposed, motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't believe there's any business arising from the minutes, so that will bring us to public input period. I have not received any submissions for public input period.
Thank you. We'll look forward to question period. I guess that moves us to report from the chair. Ms. Legault?
Thank you. Yes, the report from the chair.
Thank you. I want to take this opportunity to just provide a brief update to the board. When I originally drafted this, it was several pages long, and I know that report from the chair, it's not really appropriate to go on for that long. And as Director Kuhn knows, I have a tendency to go on as it is, so I'll try and keep this brief. But I know there's many questions and concerns circulating in our communities around the impacts of COVID-19 on our service levels, financial considerations, and taxation within the CVRD. We need to recognize this as an extremely challenging time for everyone, and really it's unprecedented. All of us at the CVRD, I know all of us on the board and our staff members are keenly focused on the issues presented during this crisis, and our community deserves this update. I'll do my best to keep it brief, but I also would suggest that anyone who has suggestions or ideas on how we can make things better through this time, just continue to reach out to us. Try and be constructive, but give us as much feedback as you can. On service levels, over the last month, our staff has been dedicated to managing this changing landscape of service delivery during the COVID-19 crisis. In the initial phases, our focus was on health and safety of our staff and our requirement to deliver core services safely and effectively. As we transitioned through these early days, new rules and recommendations came weekly and sometimes daily. We very much appreciate the science and fact-based approach, and I would give a special shout out to Dr. Henry and our Health Minister, Adrian Dix, for their leadership. However, the continual changes resulting in shifting sands under our feet and required our board and staff teams to respond swiftly. In the last couple of weeks, as the reality of the new normal has settled in somewhat, staff continue to work towards increasing service levels while honoring the recommendations coming from public health authorities and continuing to ensure the safety of our staff and all of our residents. I want to give an example of a notable area of concern, which is solid waste operations. I'll touch on this briefly only by way of one example of the challenges our staff are working through in terms of service delivery. In solid waste, the challenges are definitely multifaceted. We have a confluence of factors that have resulted in a perfect storm of negative impacts. The most obvious symptom observed by our community members are, of course, the lineups at our facilities and then the extended wait times to get through the facility. Some of the challenges that result in these lineups will include things like physical distancing requirements within facilities. It may sound straightforward, but in itself, this might be the largest single contributor to the issues that we're facing. At Peerless Road, for example, everything has had to change. From payment processing to ensuring physical distance rules results in significantly slower processing times. In addition, to ensure the physical distance, only a fraction of the regular traffic can be accommodated at the facility at any one time. Instead of like the free items flowing in, through, and out without much intervention, for example, staff are required to give direction, monitor customers, and limit the number on site at any time. If we mentally walk through this process, or like me, you've had the opportunity to experience, the layer of oversight adds substantial time to each visit. Even with all of these considerations, we are still processing similar number of customers, and in fact, actually processing higher volumes than the same period last year during this time of limited service. The confluence of issues I alluded to are not just limited to the facilities. Many more folks are also home. Weather has been beautiful. I know if I had the time, I would be spending it in my yard or my home doing so many of the seasonal and possibly even those long neglected home renovation improvement projects. This results in even higher traffic levels and further compounds the challenges with physical distancing and resulting processing time. Finally, just a quick word on other challenges in solid waste. The operations of upstream and downstream partners have also been impacted by COVID-19. Whether it's private recycling centers not being open, increasing the traffic to our facilities, our hauling partners with their own limited capacities, or things like spring cleanup in our municipalities being canceled due to the inability for our contractors to provide this service. Each one of these issues really contribute to the reality where we're working through. I talk with our staff about these issues, I said almost daily, but I know daily over the last couple of weeks, and know they're laser focused on increasing the service levels to the maximum extent possible as quickly as possible. We would still implore our customers to do whatever they can to limit non-essential trips to our facilities, but we understand that this is not always possible. This is just one service area by way of an example, and the impacts of, to sort of explain the impacts of this new normal that are becoming quite apparent in every service we offer. We reaffirm the commitment staff has made to get service levels to the highest level possible as soon as possible. I think it's also important that I touch on budget process and adoption. Budgets for regional districts must be completed by March 31st, unlike municipalities who have until May 15th to submit their financial plan. The province was not willing to extend this deadline early in this crisis. The CBRD has adopted their budget in December along with advance approval of selected capital works. This allows us generally to get a head start, get people to work on key projects, and operate through the entirety of the fiscal year with an adopted financial plan in place. In any normal year, this is an advantage to project timing, allowing CBRD to get projects out to tender early, get best bids on projects. In fact, in our 2021 budget process will start shortly, and staff are already making the initial preparations in most departments. Unfortunately, it is not possible for the CBRD to amend our 2020 budget now to reduce tax requisition for residents this year. As the province collects taxes on behalf of the regional district, it is also not possible for the regional district to change penalty dates. This is the responsibility of the government of British Columbia. All of this said, the CVRD has provided what modest relief we are able through extending the discount period for CVRD utilities for 6 months to help alleviate what financial pressures we can. We also continue to advocate for relief from the provincial government. However, to date, they have not been indicated a willingness to provide additional relief to residential property owners. The government of BC has, however, provided some relief to local governments and businesses in the last week. Relief for businesses include a one-time reduction to the school tax portion of the remittance for 2020, resulting in an approximately 25% overall reduction in tax burden. They have also extended the penalty deadline to October 1st, allowing Class 4, 5, and 6 property owners to pay later in the year without penalty. This provides substantial relief to commercial and industrial property owners, and as it is in combination with other programs at the federal and provincial level that include a 75% wage subsidy, no or low interest loans, and commercial rent subsidy. For local government relief, in particular for regional districts, most of the provisions to date have been to allow us to borrow from our own reserves to compensate for lost revenues that have occurred as a result of program cancellations, facility closures, and other reductions to non-tax revenue sources. Unfortunately, with the very different legislation governing regional districts, none of the provisions to date have made providing further tax relief possible for residential properties at this time. As indicated previously, regional districts are quite limited in terms of flexibility to provide near-term financial relief, in contrast to our municipal government. Our staff continue to push forward to increase service levels. Our board continues to collect feedback and inform our staff team in terms of these service levels. And finally, our board and myself as chair will continue to advocate on behalf of all businesses and residents in the CVRD for more support where it's needed. This is a challenging and unprecedented time for all of us, and I want to assure you that the CVRD board and staff are working hard to ensure the best outcomes for everyone in the region. We are here to serve and support you. And with that, I will turn it back over to Ms. Legault unless folks have questions at this time. Seeing none, Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On to Section 9, Committee and Commission Reports. Item CR1 is the report and recommendations of the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of April 15th, 2020.
Thank you. Through to Director Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee reports and recommends as follows from April 15th. Number 1, that a grant in aid electoral area A, Mill Bay Malahat, in the amount of $500 be provided to Cowichan Regional Visitor Center to support the Cowichan Regional Visitor Center. 2, that a grant in aid electoral area A, Mill Bay Malahat, in the amount of $1,000 to be provided to Francis Kelsey Secondary School for 2 graduation bursaries. 3, that a grant in aid electoral area C, Gobble Hill, in the amount of $300 to be provided to Mill Bay and District Conservation Society to aid in the purchase of a water pump to be used in the salmon enhancement project. 4, that a grant in aid electoral area B, Shawnigan Lake, in the amount of $2,100 be provided to Shawnigan Focus Volunteer Newspaper to support the emergency COVID-19 edition to be delivered to all mailboxes in Area B, providing information and updates on the impacts to Shawnigan Lake. 5, that the Cowichan Valley Regional District enter into an agreement with the Ministry of Transportation Infrastructure to permit construction and maintenance of the Shawnigan Lake Rail Trail connection to Renfrew Road in Electoral Area B, Shawnigan Lake. 6, that the Cowichan Valley Regional District enter into an agreement with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure to permit construction and maintenance of a community greenway trail within the Hanks Road and Appaloosa Way rights of way in Electoral Area E, Cowichan Station, Satlam, Glenora. Those are for all directors, and I move those items.
Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Haim. Is there any discussion on those? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. Back to you, Director Morrison.
Thank you. And the following items are for electoral area directors only. Number 7, that development permit DP 18E06 for PID 014644487 be issued. Number 8, 1, that CVRD bylaw 4301 West Cowichan Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw PID 012490890 2020
I've seen you. I've got you on my list.
be forwarded to the board for consideration of first and second readings. 2, the CVRD bylaw 4302 Cowichan Lake South Scotts Falls zoning amendment bylaw for the same PID 2020 be amended by deleting the 10-meter buffer requirement, and that bylaw be forwarded to the board for consideration of first and second readings. 3, that prior to consideration of adoption of bylaw 4302 Cowichan Lake South Scotts Falls zoning bylaw amendment for that same PID 2020, a restrictive covenant be prepared and registered on title with all associated costs for covenant preparation and registration to be borne by the applicant to secure the transfer of 5,000 meters squared of land for the purpose of park located along Greendale Road as a condition of any future subdivision of the subject property. 4, that the referrals for bylaws 4301 and 4302 to BC Transit, Island Health, Liaxon First Nation, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure be accepted. And 5, that a public hearing be scheduled for OCP Amendment Bylaw 4301 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4302 for application RZ18F01 for that same PID, with directors from electoral areas F, H, and I as delegates. Number 9, that covenant EC046869 registered on title for 4299 Entrance Road, PID 003026124 be discharged. 10, that second reading of bylaw 4281 electoral area E Cowichan Station Satlam Glenora zoning amendment bylaw C5 zone 4450 Trans-Canada Highway 2019 be rescinded. 2, the bylaw number 4281 electoral area E bylaw C5 zone -4450 Trans-Canada Highway 2019 be amended by deleting section 2A sub D in its entirety and adding a new section 2A sub D, which reads, D, the following additional regulations apply to the property legally described as Lot 1, Section 3, Range 3, Cowichan District, Plan 8512. 1, notwithstanding Section 9.4 sub A, automotive sales and repair, gas bar, and restaurants are not permitted uses. 2, a landscape screen of 4 meters wide, including a fence at least 1.8 meters in height, must be maintained along the northwest and south parcel lines. 3, all parking and loading areas shall be paved with asphalt, concrete, or other suitable impervious material and shall include oil water separators. 3, that bylaw number 4281 electoral area E Cowichan Station Satlam Glenora amendment bylaw C5 zone same address 2019 be read a second time as amended. And 4, that a public hearing be held in relation to CVRD zoning amendment bylaw number 4281 with directors from electoral areas E, D, and C as delegates. 11, that development variance permit DVP 19H04 for PID 002991870 to vary Section 8.2 of the Cowichan Valley Regional District Area H zoning bylaw 1020, 1986, to reduce the minimum interior parcel line setback from 3.0 meters to 2.9 meters be issued. 12, that development variance permit number DVP 19H02 for the PID 002034020 to vary Section 8.1 sub B sub 2 setbacks of the Cowichan Valley Regional District Electoral Area H zoning bylaw 1020 1986 be reduced to reduce the minimum rear parcel line setback from 4.5 meters to 3.15 meters for an accessory building be issued. 13, that development permit number DP19B17 for PID 001-429-876 be issued. And 2, that the requirement for a minimum 10% lot frontage onto a road for Lot 1 in the proposed subdivision of PID 001-429-876 be waived. And lastly, number 14. 1, that development permit DP19B16 for PID 026225964 be issued. Number 2, that covenant number CA 6807176 be registered untitled for the same PID, that it be released, and that covenant number EX26357 registered on title for the same PID also be released. And I move those items.
All right, I was wondering if there was a Director Nicholson, did you want one poll? I just saw your hand early on.
Yes, 8, please.
Number 8? Okay, so is that the multi.181 through 5? That one? Okay, so we'll deal with the rest of them first. They've been moved by Director Morrison. We have a seconder for those, Director Yanni DiNardo. Discussion. Seeing no discussion on those items, I'll call the question. This is for electoral area directors only. All those in favor? And opposed? None opposed? And so we'll go back to those pass. Back to Director Morrison.
I'll move number 8.
Thank you. So that's 8, 1 through 5, seconded by Director Haim, and I'll go to Director Nicholson. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I'd like to say that I do not support removing the buffer, the view corridor buffer along Highway 18. I think the view corridor along Highway 18 is regionally a significant asset, and it is important that we address that regionally from a land use planning perspective, as well as management of the elk, which is becoming increasingly dangerous along that highway. So I will not support this motion.
Thank you, Director Nicholson. To Director Morrison, and if you get your hand up, I'll get you on the list if you want to speak to it. Director Morrison.
Just very briefly, this was discussed thoroughly at committee, and for reasons discussed at committee and the issues around the inappropriateness of a buffer on this particular property, I'm fully supportive and ask my colleagues for support. And if there's no other hands, I would ask that the question be called.
So I'll call the question, and this is for electoral area directors only on number 8, 1 through 5. All those in favor? And opposed? Director Nicholson opposed. The motion carries. Thank you,
That
Director.
concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Back to Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No director reports. So on to Section 11 staff reports. Item SR1 is a staff report from the Water Management Division regarding the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Green Infrastructure Environmental Quality Substream Grant. The recommendation for consideration is 1, that a grant application be submitted to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Green Infrastructure Environmental Quality Substream for the Shawnigan Lake North Water Treatment Project in Electoral Area B in an amount up to $6 million, and that's subject to grant approvals, funding of up to $1,620,000 or 26.7% from capital and operating reserves, connection fees from partners and new customers, and in long-term borrowing for the project to be approved following a consultation and consent process. Part 2 is that a grant application be submitted to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program Green Infrastructure Environmental Quality Substream for the Missachi Lake and Honeymoon Bay Electoral Area F Phase 2 Sewage Collection and Treatment System Project in an amount up to $4.9 million, and that's subject to grant approval, funding of up to $1,323,000 from capital and operating reserves, connection fees from partners and new customers, and in long-term borrowing for the project be approved following a consultation and consent process.
Thank you, Director Acton, and then Director Morrison.
I was just moving it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moved by Director Atkins, seconded by Director Morrison. Discussion on that. Director Smith.
I'd just like some clarification. It says that the grant application to be submitted, and then in the bottom section it says for the project to be approved following a consultation and consent process. Does that have to take place prior to the submission, or the submission goes forward and based on the notification indicating the grant is allocated, then you go through that process of getting the consent? Is that, I see Director Morrison shaking his head. Now that we're in the COVID-19, how would you manage to get all this in place, Mr. Dennison, if
thank you.
all of a sudden had to take place? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll remember that I'm the chair for a moment. I'll put that through to Mr. Dennison, but there is the option to seek electoral approval ahead of time, but it's also much easier to have that conversation if you know you have an approved grant. But through to Mr. Dennison.
That's correct. So we do need to do we need consent for borrowing authority. So we have to go through a consent process, and necessary with that will be consultation, but that would be on the basis of a successful grant, and then we bring it to the people.
Thank you, Mr. Dennison. Any follow-up, Director Smith? That's good. Okay, and I think I had Director Morrison next.
I'll pass.
I don't believe I missed anyone, so I'll call the question. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item PH1 is the public hearing minutes and exhibits regarding CVRD bylaw number 4289 for electoral area F, Cowichan Lake South Scotts Falls zoning amendment bylaw. And the recommendation for consideration is that the public hearing minutes and exhibits regarding CVRD bylaw number 4289 electoral area F, Cowichan Lake South Scotts Falls zoning amendment bylaw for PID 009845526 Cowichan Lake Road 2019 be received.
Thank you. Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Kuhn. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Unopposed, motion carries. Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And under bylaws, item BEA1, CVRD bylaw number 4289, electoral area F, Cowichan Lake South Scotts Falls zoning amendment bylaw for PID 009845526 Cowichan Lake Road 2019 for third reading.
Thank you. That's been moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Kuhn, and I believe Director Nicholson wants to speak to it. Director Nicholson.
Thank you. I do want to speak to it. I am not supporting this. If you looked back in the public hearing minutes and exhibits for the previous report, you will notice that there are 5 responses. None of them supported this development. I know from the local area planning process that was underway for Satlam that there is not community support for further development of forestry lands. And so I will not be supporting this.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion on this item? And again, this is for electoral area directors only. Director Morrison.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief. Yeah, I did note the rather sparse turnout at the Satlam Fire Hall, and note that when there are controversial items that are not supported by the community, that they are often of a standing room only nature. And I think that this particular application, the applicant has bent over backwards to meet the requirements of the zoning that are on the books. And despite the point made by the previous speaker in regards to some proposed changes to official community plans and the likes, this has been, I think, well supported by the Area F APC, and it is There isn't a OCP amendment involved in this. This is strictly zoning, meets the terms and conditions and the community vision outlined in the Area F OCP. And I would ask my colleagues to finally move this forward so that this applicant can get on with his very sparse and limited development that he has in mind here. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go back to Director Nicholson. And let's try not to get in a debate with each other. I think our points have been made clear, but I'll go back to Director Nicholson.
I'm not interested in debating this, but I would like to point out that the Area F APC doesn't include Satlam residents. So I think it's really important to listen to Satlam residents. And if 5 residents have the wherewithal to understand what's going on and come to a meeting or send in their responses, I think we really should pay attention to that. And I didn't hear any, we didn't receive any supporting documentation or voices. So I really think it's important to listen to the community.
Thank you very much. I don't see any further discussion. If I haven't missed anyone, I will call the question. And again, I believe this is electoral area directors only. All those in favor? And opposed? I have Director Nicholson opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Back to you, Ms. Legault.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's no new business, and so on to question period. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 moment, please.
I believe we're on question period.
Yes, we are on question period. We had a moment there. I have 1 item submitted for question period at this time.
Thank you.
Would you like me to proceed with that?
Yes, please.
This is from Cliff Evans. Mr. Chair, I'm Cliff Evans from Shawnigan Lake. On today's agenda, I find under the committee commission reports for electoral area directors only to vote on section very challenging to research. Many of the items are listed with only a PID, and there's no ready reference to identify where the parcel is. The user would have to go back to the original EASC meeting to research where, what, and who. Is it possible for the CVRD to write a little more information into this section so a user might get into the ballpark of what is being voted on?
Thank you. I will follow up with staff. I know municipally we do put the civic address as well, just for clarity, but I will follow up with staff. Anything else?
Nothing else.
Thank you. What's the board's pleasure? Do you want to take a moment to see if there's any more question period? I believe people have the opportunity through the whole meeting to provide questions for question period. I would entertain a motion to adjourn, but if the board wants us to wait and see if anyone else has question period, we could do that. Director Morrison, go ahead.
I was going to move that we resolved into closed session.
So we have a motion to go into closed session. Do I have a seconder? Director Wilson? All those in favor? Opposed? And opposed, motion. Sorry, Director Nicholson, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just think we should wait the 5 minutes.
I appreciate that, but those who are watching the meeting, there's a fraction of like 5 or 6 seconds delay compared to what I see here on the YouTube stream. The motion to adjourn or to resolve into closed passed. So in the future, maybe we can have a discussion offline about how we do this, but there isn't a significant delay that would require folks to do this. Maybe we can talk about it as a policy decision, but at this point, the motion to go into closed session has passed. But we can, I'll work with staff this week because we have some outstanding items on how people interact. Ms. Legault.
Mr. Chair, I've just received an additional item for question period, if you'd like to entertain it.
I would go to you because the motion to resolve into closed session is already passed.
Okay.
So I'm happy to entertain the question if that's okay with the board, but and we'll iron it out maybe for the next meeting, but I'll go through to Ms. Legault.
I'm just opening it. If this is from Susan Kaufman, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. It seems there are limitations to using a digital forum, limitations that affect the flow of the meetings and the ability of staff and the public to participate. Unfamiliarity with software is also apparent. From last week's EASC meeting and today's regional services meeting, the limitations of participation is having an effect on business items, the applicant's ability to respond, and for delegations to appear before the board. What steps, if any, have been taken to allow for applicants, delegates, and the public to participate remotely? In regards to the public hearing, item 12, and the corresponding zoning bylaw amendment, has the public had an opportunity to respond to these changes? And she would also like to note that when this application was first put forward as an OCP amendment and then later changed to a zoning bylaw amendment, bypassing the community, Mr. Chair, if we listen to the Area F director correctly, is it only the opinion of the Area F APC, which does not have an Area E representative, that matters?
Thank you. I'll take that last one as rhetorical feedback. I think the conversation was addressed during the debate. In terms of the clumsiness of electronic meetings, I think we're all doing the best we can with what's in front of us. The alternative is to not conduct business at all, which I don't think is an option. As we move forward, we expect people to get more familiar with it, and we hope to be able to provide more ways for people to engage. The necessity to send in an email allows for thoughtful, reasoned input. And frankly, from my perspective, the sooner we receive that input to the members of the board, the more we can consider it before we make decisions. But that being said, we'll continue to work with staff on ways to engage people around these important issues, and all work to become more adept and familiar with the software as we move forward. And with that, we've already resolved to go into closed session, so I would say that we'll take a 5-minute break. Let's say we're back in at about 2:20, if we can just kind of turn around. I know we have a different meeting request, and we'll connect in closed session in just a few minutes. Thank you.